All right, guys, it's a Happy New Year here. We're back to talking some Oscar stuff and the rest of award season stuff here in 2024, as strange as that sounds. I'll be honest, I'm not really in a great mood right now. I just tried out for about half an hour here, 40 minutes almost. I got a camera here. I could show it, but it's a little thing. You attach it here. I'm sorry if I'm blocking the camera there, but it's like you would go like behind where the normal camera is here, and it's supposed to improve the video quality and stuff. So I tried it out. It had a nice light on it and everything, but the light fucking was blinding me, so that wasn't a good start. And then also it was it seems, and I looked up like 5 or 6 different things, and I couldn't find any way to improve the may not improve, but change the zoom on the camera, because it was like showing like half the room here, and it's like, well, it just didn't look good. I was like, this, plus it's like very, like, if you need to adjust this or at all, it's like very unstable and it's going to fall off. So if I accidentally bump here, it's going to bump the camera off mid-recording. So I just spent over almost $50 after shipping and handling on that, and I'm not even probably going to be able to use it, not for this series at least, not for a ton of stuff, so that feels great. So other than that, let's talk some stuff here. So I was planning, because one of the problems I've had here is my the app that I'm using to record all this stuff kept, there were a couple times here in the last 4 weeks, 5 weeks, where I've been recording and it's been going good, and all of a sudden I look and 10 minutes of what I've been recording is gone. The camera just stopped. So I thought it's like, oh, okay, I just need to rely on something else, not the app or whatever. No, I don't know. So I looked up a couple other things here, because I'm like, okay, well, why is my video, only recording up to a certain point and then it just stops? One time it did it and I was only 20 minutes into the video. Another time I did it, the last time I tried to do it, and I was almost an hour into the video, and I was, I was getting close to being done with it, and then it stopped, and I didn't pick it up until like 6 or 7 minutes after the recording stopped. So so I got discouraged on that. Plus, I'm working on a different video. I don't know when it's going to get finished. I mean, it could be months and months from now. I don't know. Progress just is very, very slow on it. But I don't want to, with the way Apple and all their stuff works with like video stuff, it's like, I don't know. You can do like multiple projects at once and stuff, but I just felt like something was going to go wrong if I tried to, took what I had originally, re-record where I had to, where it was a little more natural to record, and then combine the two into one video. And it just, I don't know, it just didn't feel like it was worth it. So, yeah, so with that long preamble out of the way, so, I had a video almost ready to go when a few days after the shortlists were out for the Oscars, and we talked a lot about that. There's a couple movies I've seen, so I did reviews for them, and yeah, so it's like I'm very frustrated by all the technical difficulties I've had here in the last few weeks. So at this point, if the app I'm using here, if it quits recording now, I don't know what to do, because this is the only one I know that works consistently without me having to fucking download another fucking program onto my goddamn computer, which is already short on space here most of the time. Again, partially due to that big project I'm talking about. I just don't know what to do, and I've tried. There was one time I tried live streaming on YouTube, and it's like that. I tried it at my old place there, and the Wi-Fi wasn't very great back then. And it was like, it recorded like 9 seconds at a time, and it would stop for like a minute, and then it would record again, and it was just a disaster. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm in a technical tricky spot here, where it's like, okay, I can just stick with this kind of lower quality, fast upload, minimal editing style here, and just hope it works, and hope my fucking video doesn't fucking stop recording in the middle of a goddamn sentence or something. But, and I can get through my spiel. I mean, I can try that, as it's worked for years and years and years and years and years here now, it seems. And just here in the last few weeks, it has not. Now, since then, yeah, I do have a new charger as well here, because some of the Apple chargers for my laptop here are also very limited on. Well, they get hot very quickly. You can hear them like fizzle through the outlet on certain outlets. Sometimes it'll get, not while it's plugged in, but after when you're while it's has been plugged in for a while. But once you plug it in and then once you pull it out, there's a lot of sparks and shit. So it's like I don't know. So this charger is pretty brand new. I only started using it like 4 or 5 days ago. I don't know. I thought maybe that would have something to do with it because, I don't know, maybe if it's not plugged in all the way or something, then it'll stop recording, which makes no sense because realistically this should not have to be charging in order for this app to work. So I don't know. I just felt like ranting there for a minute. So thank you for bearing with me there. I guess we can pick up here. I can just say a couple things about the shortlist since they're kind of distant history now. And we're looking more forward to what's going to win at the Globes, what's going to get nominated at SAG, and stuff like that. So I wanted to do this in 2 parts here today. First, we're going to look at the updates, and we're going to look through the whole catalog now, all 23 categories here at the Oscars. Give some updated predictions. I'll give those quick recaps on the 2 films I've seen, and we'll talk about those a little bit. Because I think both are going to be definitely in the best picture lineup. At least they're in the race right now. It's really hard to see both of them dropping out. I don't think either one of them is, but we'll get to that. Anywho, I guess we can quick maybe 2 or quick things on the short list there we can talk about. I don't have it pulled up in front of me, so I'm just going off what I remember talking about in the other video there that no longer exists. I think one of the biggest things that people picked up on is stuff like the color purple missing in the sound category. That was very strange. Again, traditionally, the Oscars have really been favoring more musical films. Now, Maestro did make the short list, so it seems like that one has an edge here. Barbie doing pretty well on the short lists. The one that I think some people expected it in, I did not. And I've been kind of from the beginning of the season saying, no, this isn't right. Makeup, or not since the beginning of the season, I should say. There's another call that just came out today that I've been saying, yes, that is correct. That is the way it's going to go. And I actually didn't get a chance to update it here on my end, so I'm finally getting that done right now. And that is the thing about Barbie in the screenplay category. I've been shouting since the beginning, this is going to end up in adapted, just wait and see. And I know some people have contended otherwise. I've been saying, no, it's going to be original. Sorry, yep, just came out today. It is in adapted, so that's about the only thing I've been right on here recently. It feels like, I'm just going back to the tech stuff now. It's like, I've been frustrated with that. But anyways, makeup and hairstyling, though, was a spot where I was like, yeah, I don't believe in Barbie here. And sure enough, yep, it did not make the short list there. I don't know. Otherwise, for what it's worth, like Society of the Snow got onto a few lists. Spider-Man did pretty well. You could argue Killers of the Flower Moon, Poor Things, and Oppenheimer, none of them missed anything. Zone of Interest is actually kind of strong. It's got a couple, it's up for the sound category, and it's up for the score category. In visual effects, you've got, Poor Things got in there when some were questioning that one. Let's see here. Yeah, Guardians did not get into the makeup short list, which I thought it'd have a stronger shot there, but I don't know. Some of those sequels sometimes struggle in that category, though a lot of us, I remember, we picked the third in the Star Trek series, the newer Star Trek series, over Suicide Squad when it was down to 3 nominees that year. But, we all know how that ended. Otherwise, the other, not the 80 for Brady, but the other song by Diane Warren, the Flamin' Hot song, from The Fire Inside, that got in. Or no, I had it the other way around. Sorry, The Fire Inside is the name of the song. Flamin' Hot is the name of the doc, I think. I think it's a doc. I don't think it's a movie. That one got in. The 80 for Brady one is out for the short list there. Yeah, I don't know. I think that kind of summarizes it pretty well. Otherwise, the last time I did it, we just looked through all of them, and it just, after a while, I'm like, yeah, okay, that's that one. So, let's go ahead and dive in here for my official predictions now. After we've gotten Globe nominations out, we've got Critics' Choice nominations out, we've got the short lists out, and again, I've seen a couple films as well. So, let's do the predictions first, then I'll recap the films at the end. How about that? And then in a separate video here, We're going to do the SAG nomination updated predictions, and we'll just take a quick look at the Globe potential winner, how those categories are kind of shaken out. Okay, so for Best Picture, Oppenheimer is still going to remain my number one. In the Best Picture category, it feels like it's in a pretty decent spot. I mean, it doesn't have a huge target on its back yet. I've not heard a lot of total backlash on the film or anything. Even though it's been out for a while, it still feels like it's a popular enough film. It feels like a film that people are talking about enough that it's not fading away. It's not like a Fabelmans or one of those cases. Number 2, I've actually bumped up Poor Things. I feel like this one actually could outperform Killers of the Flower Moon as far as total nominations, especially if De Niro falls out as supporting actor, if that one gets tight, or potentially there's a couple other of those tech categories that Killers of the Flower Moon could just fall out of potentially if it gets, again, a little more competitive than we're thinking as far as some passion votes in those categories. I'm thinking of particularly the design categories. Those two it could miss. I don't think it will, but there's a possibility it misses there. But that being said, I do have Killers of the Flower Moon in third. I just feel like Poor Things overall, it's becoming, not like a discovery film. I think if anything, because every year it seems there's a discovery film. If there is one this year, it's either American Fiction or it's Past Lives. But Poor Things, I don't think is in that spot, but it still feels like one that is, it's starting to gain a little bit momentum. If it does well at the Globes, like if it beats Barbie and holdovers for Comedy Musical Picture, which I'm, at this point, okay, I won't say if I'm predicting or not. We'll save that for the next video. But yeah, I'm thinking it's going to do a solid job there. As obviously it did with the number of nominations it got. It really, I don't think, missed anything. So yeah, and it's still done pretty well at Critics' Choice and stuff. And a few awards bodies here and there have given it some pluses and minuses there from their critics groups awards and stuff. Killers in third, though, I think I mentioned. Maestro I have in fourth. That one's still hanging around. And I think it's going to outperform A Star is Born as far as total number of nominations. But I don't see it even then. I don't know if it's going to be like a total lock for some of the categories that, Star is Born missed, like director, and potentially film editing, categories like that. We'll see. But I think it's going to do a little better than Star is Born as far as total nominations. Holdovers in fifth. I think it's going to be in for picture. I don't see it winning Best Picture. Same goes for Barbie. I have it down in sixth. I think it's going to do, it's in that middle, that kind of second tier number of nominations. I can see it getting to 7 or 8, but I don't see it breaking double digits at the moment. American Fiction is my number 7 pick. This one is, I think, about ready to start expanding in its theatrical release. So I'm hoping to see that one pretty soon. I saw a preview in front of another film. Poor Things, I think, was the one I saw it in front of. And, man, it does look good. Because for some reason, I had just not seen the trailer anywhere. And it does look good. It looks up my alley. It looks like something where it's like, hey, here's a good topic for a film. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one. Number 8 is The Color Purple. Again, missing a few key spots at the Golden Globes, missing out on 1 or 2 categories on the shortlist that make you go, huh? So I don't think that one is overall going to be like the 9-10 nominee film that some of us thought it was back in September, but still, again, a solid 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8 nominations total for that one. Number 9 is Anatomy of a Fall for me. I've got that one. I think it's a solid enough contender in some of the categories, even without like an international feature category, for it to get a nomination in. I still think it's going to do well. And then number 10 for me is Past Lives. I think, again, it's in a spot kind of like some of these films down below where it's like, it's not going to win Best Picture, but it's got enough love where it can get enough number 1 votes in the voting there. So just outside of that is probably for me Zone of Interest. I feel like I can already see a scenario where this one lands director, picture, potentially screenplay, and then probably international feature, score. Kind of being somewhere between All Quiet on the Western Front last year and Triangle of Sadness also from last year. As Triangle of Sadness, of course, missed all the tech categories and everything. Was just in writing, directing, and Best Picture. But I see Zone of Interest really having the potential to be somewhere in between those two films. May, December, I don't think it's totally out of the Best Picture conversation yet, but again, when you do have something like Maestro up there from Netflix as their top priority right now, it does hurt that one's chances a little bit. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, doing okay in those shortlists and stuff. I think it's still like a, I don't know, 12th or 13th in the rankings here. It's possible for it to break in, but it's starting to look a little bit more unlikely over time. And yeah, after that, like some people say Air is out there. And if Air does land like a film editing nomination, okay, it would have to, I would say it's more likely that, okay, if it gets like film editing, screenplay, supporting actress, I can see it slipping in to that 9th or 10th slot for picture. But at the moment, I'm not really super confident on what else that one's going to get. Okay, let's move over to the directing category, and I don't really have any changes here. I've got Christopher Nolan still out front. Yorgos I've actually bumped up to second place. It's kind of weird. I'm thinking back to when Denis Villeneuve missed here for Dune a couple of years ago, and in retrospect, I'm like, okay, how could he have missed? Because he had all the tech categories. Wait, there was no acting categories. Oh. Which, at least for something like Arrival, which he was nominated for, you could argue was maybe in the directing category that year, maybe he had an easier time getting in. I don't know. I don't know. But anyways, at least with that one, Amy Adams, even though she wasn't in the end of the day nominated, she was at least consistently getting nominations across the board at like SAG and BAFTA and Golden Globes and stuff. And Poor Things, it's going to do very well below the line, and it's going to do pretty well above the line, so I don't see him being a Denis Villeneuve this year. Martin Scorsese I do have in third, Alexander Payne in fourth, and I'm sticking with Justine Triet for the moment, but Jonathan Glazer is a very, very, that's a very close call. There's potential for both of them to get in, and Alexander Payne I think would be the first to go if they're both going to get in. I don't know, we'll see. Just one thing though, I did originally say that Bradley Cooper is kind of my sixth place pick. No, I think it's going to be Jonathan Glazer's now sixth for me. And then seventh, actually I'm going to go Celine Song for Past Lives in seventh. It's just one of those films, I think, again, if it's kind of a bit of a discovery film, a surprise film, the biggest indie film out there this year that's catching fire and getting enough attention here and enough of these picture nominations at like Globes and stuff. And Critics' Choice. So I think it's going to stick around. And it's one of those, it just seems at times like the direction kind of calls attention to itself, and I think this branch really likes that. So I think she's a kind of sneaky seventh place pick. Greta Gerwig, I'm not going to totally throw out yet, but I have her falling a little bit in my odds. I just think with the insularness of this, particularly this branch at the Academy, they like their auteurs, and as much as some would call Greta Gerwig an auteur, I don't think she's up to that level yet. This is only her third film, so directing-wise. So, yeah, let's not go there. And I know some people would say, well, what about Celine Song then? I'm like, well, I don't know if that's really an auteur move, when they're getting these Hamaguchi in a couple of years ago for Drive My Car, or last year getting the guy from whose name I can't pronounce from Triangle of Sadness. It felt a little bit more like an auteur move because of what he had done with some of his past films. Wim Wenders, to me, still kind of feels like one of those like steel, kind of spots like that. But keep in mind, as the Academy does continue to really over time show how much its international voting is starting to creep up. That's part of the reason I'm giving Justine the edge here, is because Anatomy of a Fall at the European Film Awards a few weeks ago did pretty well. It won, I believe, picture and director, and I believe maybe actress as well over there. I'd have to look it up again. But I know it at least won picture. So it's seems like it's won, and I believe it was voted over in Zone of Interest. Zone of Interest was also a nominee there for film at the European Awards. So it is a spot where, yes, it is getting the vote above Zone of Interest. Otherwise, Bradley Cooper, also, I think for Maestro, if that one hits just right with this branch, I think they could include him. But again, I don't know. Since they didn't give him the nod for Star is Born, so I think it's going to be a little tougher to get him a spot here as well. If he'd gotten that previous nomination, I think he'd be much more in line to get a nomination here. But I don't sense him having any trouble in the Best Actor category, at least getting nominated. I still have him as my front runner for now. with Cillian Murphy in second, Paul Giamatti in third for The Holdovers, Leo in fourth, and Jeffrey Wright in fifth for American Fiction. And I feel like that's a pretty consensus 5 right now, actually. If you don't have him, you have either Coleman Domingo or Andrew Scott in that fifth slot, depending. And then a couple people I don't think have Giamatti in there, and they're probably fools. But yeah, I just with All of Us Strangers, I feel like that one, the international voters, if enough like British voters in particular see the film and really really like it, they could mark enough of them mark him number 1. And yeah, and that could happen. He could definitely steal a slot there. And one other thing too, I did finally also see a trailer for this one because I hadn't seen it on the web or anything beforehand. But this one, at first I thought, oh, it's just going to be, from the way it sounded, it was like a traditional kind of gay romance kind of story. Nah, this one sounds like no. The storyline doesn't necessarily revolve around him being gay. It's more kind of a sci-fi kind of time travel kind of aspect to it. He just happens to be a gay character in the film. And I personally, not being in the LGBTQ plus community or however I don't mean to be insulting by not knowing being up to standard on it or whatever, but last I heard that was the way they prefer the whole thing to be whittled down to. If it were me in that, I would really say, hey, let's, we don't just have to have stories exclusively about like gay romance or a gay love story or anything. Why not just have, stories that are like about something else and a character happens to be lesbian or happens to be queer or happens to be this, that, or, any one of the letters or anything. So, so for me, I think, not to say I wasn't interested before, but I think, seeing that, approach to the film, I think will help in its box office reach and everything there. Let's go to Best Actress here. So I've got Emma Stone now out front for Poor Things. More about her later. Lily Gladstone in second for Killers of the Flower Moon. Sandra Hüller in third for Anatomy of a Fall. Carey Mulligan in fourth. And Greta Lee I now have in my fifth place spot. I've bumped out Annette Bening. That narrative just never took off, which, I haven't seen Naiad, so kind of too bad. It's like, I think, she's probably got a couple films left in her where she can get an Oscar nomination out of it. But, yeah, and I knew, even with that, kind of hope predicting with her being number 1 for so long on my board, at least, I always knew there was going to be a problem with Carey Mulligan also being, from Maestro being another Netflix entry. It's just, I can't remember, and I don't have it in front of me here, but have we seen like a singular category have multiple nominees from different films from Netflix outside of maybe the COVID year in 2020? I'm not really thinking. I think we've seen like The Irishman. We've seen both Joe Pesci and Al Pacino get nominated. They were in the same film. Actually that year, Anthony Hopkins. That's right. Anthony Hopkins was in for the Pope, the new Pope or whatever, the French Pope, whatever the fuck that movie was. I didn't see that one either. Yeah, okay, so that's a case. So it's not, I guess it's not impossible, but especially here when it's a little more crowded. Not to say that supporting actor that year was, easy, but, I think with this one a little more crowded because you've got those 5, you've got Annette, you've also got Fantasia Barrino, hopping around a little bit. Margot Robbie is definitely still a possibility. Natalie Portman's not out of it totally yet. So, yeah, I think you got it down to those 9, I think, are probably the ones that I would keep an eye on here. With the other possibility, maybe a late break by maybe Jessica Chastain for Memory just because she's a past winner. Because, again, we'll talk about this maybe with other categories, but sometimes in these acting categories, when you have a past winner and you have an open slot and they have a film that people have seen, it can get in. So I would, like Kathy Bates, for example, for Richard Jewell would be a recent example of that. Or potentially a couple of years ago with the, I can't remember the name of the feature. It was a Spanish film, I think, that Penelope Cruz got in for. And both of them were very, very spotty through the rest of the award season. In particular, Cruz missed all the other major precursors that we usually count on. So, yeah. Yeah, but I think my ultimate choice here to go with Greta Lee in that 5th slot, I want to talk about that a little bit. I think even though, a lot of people have argued, well, her big emotional sequence is literally some of the last shots of the film, so it's a little tougher. If it's a film that you watch and you're not into it, you're not going to see her best stuff. And we've seen that hurt some other contenders in the past, for sure. You could argue my number one probably would be the guy Stuhlbarg, Michael Stuhlbarg from Call Me By Your Name, who gives one of the most just powerful speeches, even though it's a more intimate and quiet moment, but it's a powerful moment in that film. But it's in the second to last sequence, and it's a movie that's a little over 2 hours long, and again, with the subject matter of that one 6 years ago, yeah, you could definitely say there were going to be some voters that didn't, they checked out of the movie before they got to that spot, especially in the acting branch, too. Yeah, and again, Past Lives, I feel like it's one that, has a shot to sneak into some categories. It's on the short list for, like, the song, Best Original Song, so, yeah, so I feel like it could sneak up on us a little bit. So I think this is a spot for, again, Margot. Now, here's the thing I did not know about with Poor Things. Emma Stone is actually also a producer on that film, so she'd be a double nominee this year. But I think the difference between her and Margot, because Margot, my argument last time was I don't have her in because she's a hardcore producer on the film and everything. With her, she's a known producer. I think a lot of people have known for, through the marketing and stuff, she is a hands-on producer on the film. She's not just starring as Barbie. She helped produce the thing. Emma Stone also helped produce Poor Things, but it's been much less focused on. It's been a lot less questions about it, a lot less talk about her being a producer on the film. So I think that, hurts Margot, and it doesn't hurt too much for Emma. Let's move on to the supporting categories here. There we go. It didn't load for me right away. Robert Downey Jr. is still my frontrunner here for Oppenheimer for supporting actor, with Mark Ruffalo now in second place. I think I bumped him up a spot or two from last time we talked. Ryan Gosling is in third for Barbie. For me, I've got De Niro down in fourth, and Willem Dafoe is still my fifth place pick. I want to see what SAG and potentially BAFTA does before I put Charles Melton in. And if I put him in, it's a tough call for me about whether it's De Niro or Dafoe that I kick out. It would probably be Dafoe, probably, because, I don't know. I thought, because when I pulled De Niro from my Golden Globe predictions and stuff, and that's with 6 slots, he still got in, to be fair, though. As for all we know, he was slot number 6. I was thinking about, well, the Globes had missed him before for, like, The Irishman. You could argue maybe one or two other performances over the years they didn't nominate him for. But, yeah, that's less so an argument, I think, for the Academy. I think just the year of, like, The Irishman, for example, there were enough passion votes for other performances out there that also kept him out. But it wasn't just the fact that he kept missing everywhere. But, yeah, Melton is close. I think Sterling K. Brown is still not totally out of it either, so probably down to those 7, though. There's not a lot of other buzz in that category for some other dark horse contenders. In supporting actress, I'm sticking with Emily Blunt for now as my early frontrunner, but I'm really tempted to switch it to probably somebody like a Danielle Brooks. Color Purple so far has been doing pretty well at the box office. Critic-wise, it's been in that mid to upper 80s on the Rotten Tomatoes meters, so they're, generally most critics are really liking it. I just feel like when the industry starts voting, I'm not sure if Divine Joy Randolph, who I do have in third, by the way, I'm not sure if she's going to just follow through as the winner there. I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, it's kind of early on, so she could win at the Globes, and then maybe somewhere else, somewhere down the line, they start shifting. SAG, for example, they might shift to someone, especially if it's somebody who gets a slot in the ensemble category, because I'm not convinced at all that Holdovers is going to get in for ensemble, because literally you would only nominate Divine, Dominic Sessa, and you would nominate Paul Giamatti. That'd be the only 3 from the cast that would get in, so by the current SAG rules and stuff. So they really, really, really rarely nowadays go for that. The only other film I can think of that had that few was Beasts of No Nation. But again, the difference, I think I pointed this out before, the difference between that one was with Beasts of No Nation, there were the 3 that were credited, but there were other characters in the film. And usually, again, they like child ensembles sometimes. Whether it's that one or Jojo Rabbit or, a couple of the others. With this one, though, it's those 3, but there's a good chunk of the movie, like almost 2/3 of the movie, where it is only those three characters. So it's I just don't really see the argument for that one getting in. It's just not traditionally what something the SAG voting body would do. Anyway, so we'll probably come back to that argument later, though. Julianne Moore in 4th place for me for May, December. And my 5th spot, since Naiad, I'm not really sensing that one, so I dumped Jodie Foster. I'm going Penelope Cruz for Ferrari here. I feel like, again, this is a spot where you have an open contender. You can go with a past winner. Ferrari is from Michael Mann, he's got a better track record than the guys who did Free Solo, who also, they directed Naiad. Guys, I can't remember if it was a guy and girl or what, but the pair that directed Free Solo. Ferrari's also coming out a little later. It's a little more top of mind and stuff. We haven't seen a lot of strength from Taraji P. Henson. America Ferrera still feels like a bit of a long shot here for Barbie. And I feel like for Barbie, you're going to have those passionate voters within the Academy who vote at number 1. But down the road, and obviously this will have a lot to do with like the Best Picture rankings and stuff when we get to like final voting. I can sense there's going to be some people that just don't dig Barbie. People are like, oh, I don't like the big studio movie, that's not like an Oppenheimer, like a biopic, or a Killers of the Flower Moon from an auteur director that we really love, like Scorsese. They're going to bump Barbie further and further and further down the ballot. So if enough of those are people that just don't care for the movie are also in the acting branch, I don't see America Ferrera making it here. Really, you've got Sandra Hüller, Viola Davis also as possibilities here. I wouldn't even totally throw out Rosamund Pike, even though she was nominated the Globes only. And I think a lot of people explained it, well, remember, she's gotten in a couple times for the Globes when it's been films that don't go on to Oscar nominations and stuff. And Saltburn generally has also been a little bit lower, I think, than some people were expecting at the beginning of the season, so... Yeah, I would just say Penelope Cruz for now, just in that slot. Okay, so I had to make some changes here today to this list. Original screenplay, now with Barbie out, because I had that as my front runner, because I felt like when it was in this category, oh yeah, it's the popular movie that's going to win. Just felt like one where it's like, yep, let's finally give Greta an Oscar win. In the adapted category, that's going to be much, much, much tougher. Because I think best case scenario for that film, it gets 4th place. It's just going to be really, really tough for that film in that category. But while it was over here in original, I thought, oh yeah, it can beat out the rest of the ship there. But not the case now. So I'm going to go Holdovers. I had that in 2nd place. For now, I'm going to put it at number 1. But Past Lives could definitely just beat it and get the win there. So I have that in 2nd. Maestro in 3rd, Anatomy of a Fall in 4th, and May December has been sticking around in some of the screenplay races here. I think it's my 5th place vote. Air is going to be really close, though, and I think Saltburn could get in potentially, but again, I think that one would have to surprise us a little bit. And then probably in 8th I would go, 7, 8, 8th place would be probably Asteroid City, really as a long, kind of a long shot right now. Okay, so on the adapted side, with Barbie included now, I still have Oppenheimer out front, but I'm really close to putting my 2nd place pick in number 1, and that would be Poor Things. I'm really close to moving that one to the winner here in adapted screenplay. Again, we'll probably talk about it a little more when we review the film, but damn good screenplay there by Tony McNamara. Killers of the Flower Moon in 3rd, Barbie in 4th, and American Fiction in 5th. I feel pretty good about those. So Zone of Interest feels like it's kind of getting the shaft here now, with Barbie included. All the Strangers, I think, really does stand a shot at getting a slot here. I would say after that, it gets a little tougher. But, that's probably how that's going to shake out for now. Okay, next up, just skip over here and go to the feature categories next. So, animated feature. Let's start there. I think Spider-Man's pretty far out front here. Boy and the Heron, I think if Miyazaki, a lot of people, including myself, sometimes forget, even though a lot of people say, well, give it to Miyazaki, he's such a legend. He has won before. He did win for Spirited Away. So if he had never had a win, okay, then I can see, Boy and the Heron being a little bit of a bigger argument. But especially with him potentially also, like John Williams more recently, coming out and saying, no, this probably isn't my last film. I'm probably going to have more stuff ahead of me. it really does kind of, I won't say, quashes its chances of winning, but it diminishes it for sure. In third place, I'm going to go with The Peasants. It has struggled so far, but I think it can get in. I still think it can get in. Because I think there's not a ton of passion, I think, for some of the other films that have taken over some of those slots more recently. Like Super Mario Brothers missing the song nomination for Peaches on the short list there. Not a great sign for that film. I don't know. I might switch it out because I have Elementals in fourth, which that one I think does feel still pretty solid. Wish is my fifth place one. That's the one I might kick out and put Super Mario Brothers back in, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I'm still a couple of films. Nimona is one that some have really looked at, and it could get in if there's just enough passion for it. But so far, I've really not heard as much passion for that one actually as I was suspecting. If it can get like one of the 3 slots at BAFTA, that would be gigantic. If it gets in there, okay, yeah, then I'll for sure put it in, but we'll see. Aardman has also really missed the boat so far with Chicken Run. It just doesn't seem like that one was taken off at all. Mutant Mayhem got in at Critics' Choice, but again, I don't know if that one's going to survive here. I think Super Mario Brothers is probably the only other one I would consider here more so than most of the others there. Let's move on to the documentary feature category. This will be the first time we talk about this one a little bit more in depth here. American Symphony #1, partially because it's also on the list for, I was going to say international feature, but that's not right. Sorry, it was for song and stuff, and I think it was on the score shortlist too, if I'm not mistaken. Was that true? No, it was not. Yeah, it is. It is. Sorry, I had the wrong order there, so I thought I had passed it. So it did pretty well with the shortlist there. So I think that helps its odds for winning this category. But 20 Days in Maripol is also in the hunt for at least one other category there, an international feature. Beyond Utopia is my third place pick. Four Daughters in fourth, and The Eternal Memory in fifth. And I'm tired of being burned in this category for going with the more popular subject matter documentaries, because they have just, as of late, they've just been struggling. Whether it's Won't You Be My Neighbor, or if it's the Paulo documentary from 2019. You can go back to Roger and Me, you can go back to Hoop Dreams, you can go back to The Thin Blue Line. There's just the Richard documentary that Al Pacino did back in the 90s as well. It's just this category and this branch in particular, once it's been established as a branch, they just usually, unless it's March of the Penguins or something like that, or sometimes what was the other one? Was it Malala was one? Or was that in the other category? I can't remember. But it's like once in a while, yes, they will actually go with the popular subject matter. Oh, the Whitney Houston one, too, if I remember right. That one won, didn't it? I can't even remember now. Jeez. I can't even remember. But anyways, it's like, once in a while, yes, they will go with the popular subject matter ones. But so, still, the Michael J. Fox documentary, I'm just not gonna fall for the trap this time. Yeah. Otherwise, Apollonia is one that some people have talked about in this category. Stamped from the Beginning could have some passion votes in there as well, so that one's a little more open. International feature. This, I just look at this list and I just sigh because I'm like, this is tough. This is really tough to whittle down here. I think The Zone of Interest is probably your clear front runner here, and it will probably end up winning the category. And you've got Society of the Snow, which did pretty well with the short list and stuff, and it's from J.A. Bayona, who's gotten a few Hollywood features under his belt, going back to Spain to do this one. After that, it's a wild, wild west here. I just don't know what to go with, because you've got Fallen Leaves, you've got Perfect Days, you've got The Teacher's Lounge, you've got Io Capitano, you got Totem, you've got Four Daughters, which is in the other category, you've got The Teacher's Lounge, if I haven't said that one yet, you got Perfect Days, you got Taste of Things, you got, have I missed any of them, or have I said a couple of them twice? Good. How about throw in The Promised Land, too, from Denmark? That's with Mads Mikkelsen in it. So you got a lot of other contenders here. This is going to be really hard to whittle down to 5. At the moment, though, even though it's been struggling as of late, I'm keeping Teacher's Lounge in for now. I just feel like with that one, I feel like it had enough buzz around it early. I think as this branch kind of looks at that one, I think they'll go for it. And also, just with its title and stuff, they'll think, oh, kids are in it. And sometimes they like the kids in this category. Perfect Days with Wim Wenders being behind that one. I can totally see that one happening. Could be, again, a sneaky, sneaky dark horse, like out of nowhere director nominee, if that still holds true. But we haven't seen any evidence for that yet. And then I'm going to go with France's The Taste of Things. Remember, that is the one that beat out Anatomy of a Fall, supposedly. But again, with Anatomy of a Fall, half that movie already being in English, I feel like France might not have, even with Taste of Things aside, I still think they might have gone with something else in that submission. So that's the 5 I have. But again, you've got at least, with Fallen Leaves and with Io Capitano, which is a Golden Globe nominee, with Totem, with 20 Days in Maripol, and Four Daughters and The Promised Land. That's already 6 other contenders. So The Monk and the Gun, Godland, The Mother of All Lies, and Americazzi, I think is how you pronounce it. That's the only 4 that I'm not hearing much buzz on in this category. It's just packed to the brim, man. That's going to be. I don't know if anybody can be legitimately surprised by who gets in on that one, unless it's one of those last 4, because there's just so many contenders in that category. All right, let's move on to the tech categories here now. I'm keeping an eye on the camera here a little bit just in case it turns off on me, which will really upset me. Oppenheimer, number 1 for cinematography. Feels like a pretty good lock there. Killers of the Flower Moon in 2nd. Poor Things in 3rd. Maestro in 4th. And I'm sticking with Color Purple for now, but I'm not really sure what else to go with in that 5th slot. It could be Zone of Interest. You've got a past winner with Shooting Saltburn. Rodrigo Prieto also has Barbie. With a David Fincher movie out there, The Killer could, Eric Messerschmidt is also a past winner, so I wouldn't be totally shocked. Once the Guild for Cinematographers comes out with their picks, that's going to help us, I think, a little bit. And we'll see if any of those outside contenders can bump their way up. Let's see. Let's go with film editing next. Here I'm also going to go with pretty much a pretty similar list here. Oppenheimer, number 1. Killers of the Flower Moon in 2nd, Poor Things in 3rd, Maestro in 4th. I do have The Holdovers in 5th here, though. And I think with that one, I'm still holding on to Holdovers, even though it missed it. I think it was Critics' Choice did not put it in. Barbie could sneak in here and be that 5th slot. Anatomy of a Fall is still viable here. American Fiction could get in. Ferrari could get in. Fast Cars, Zoom Zoom, and all that. So, there's a couple other possibilities there. Let's go to the design categories here next. Costume design. I have Poor Things out front, then Barbie. Killers of the Flower Moon in 3rd, Oppenheimer in 4th, and Color Purple in 5th. And with that one, you've got Wonka and Napoleon that are really close. Maestro could definitely get in here. Chevalier I wouldn't totally throw out yet either. I know not a lot of people are really on the Oppenheimer train, at least getting the nomination here. Again, I feel like it's kind of been my mantra this year for this its placement here in this category. It just feels like it's one of those everything, everywhere, all at once kind of things where it's it just keeps getting into places we don't expect it to. That's kind of my mantra there. Production design, I'm sticking with the same 5 here. Poor Things, Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Color Purple. Once again, Napoleon and Wonka are also possibilities here. Maestro, a little less so here. It's the costume design's a little more front and center there. Asteroid City could sneak in here. If memory serves, that was on the list for Critics' Choice. And I think after that it'll get a little tougher in that category. For the music categories next, original score, I've got Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Zone of Interest, and Spider-Man. Across the Spider-Verse, here's my 5. The other ones who made the short list here, Elemental, it's been a while now since we've seen, oh geez, come on, I know his name. Newman, right? Nominated. David Newman? Oh my god, how am I forgetting his name? Oh, jeez, Luis. I'm totally having an Alzheimer's moment here. God, I should not be struggling with him. Jeez. Oh, jeez, I hit the wrong thing. Thomas Newman. God damn Oh, yeah. It's getting a little later here, too. That doesn't help me. So, yeah, Thomas Newman, he didn't get in for, like, the little things and stuff like that, but, yeah, and it's... I don't know. I feel like, just in this particular thing, when you're looking at animated scores and stuff, Spider-Man is, I think, far and ahead of Elemental as far as popularity and stuff. Even though he's shortlisted here, I don't see this as a spot for John Williams because, with Indiana Jones, the history there, the first three did get score nominations, each of them, but, Crystal Skull missed, all the prequels missed, so I don't know. Yeah, Barbie. I don't see Barbie sneaking into one of these slots here. It could be tougher. Could happen, but I'm not, I would put it like maybe 6th or 7th place, And then Society of the Snow, I'm just really resisting that one right now, even though it's getting a few other bids here and there. Michael Giacchino, again, since Up, has just failed consistently to get nominated, even when he's got multiple scores a year that could be nominated, and, other years maybe would have been nominated. He just has never landed another nomination, so I'm just going to ignore that one. it's him not getting in before has burned me multiple times. In the song category, I've got "I'm Just Ken" from Barbie and "What Was I Made For," both from Barbie as my number 1 and number 2. I've got "Rustin," the Road Freedom song, in 3rd. "Keep It Movin'" from Color Purple in 4th, and "You Gotta Go Fire Inside" from Flamin' Hot in 5th for Diane Warren. And probably best for her to only get one song shortlisted. That way she doesn't end up splitting votes and missing a nomination. They always have to put her in, so I feel like it's, probably for them the right thing to do that if they want to get her nominated. "It Never Went Away" is the song from American Symphony. That feels like a big-time could-be spoiler. That feels really close, and that could get in over maybe the Rustin song or over Color Purple. We'll have to see. And yeah, it feels like, if "I'm Just Ken" does end up missing, I think they would go with "Dance the Night" from Barbie. Yeah, we even saw Spider-Man get in here for a song. So, so that kind of shows the strength for that one. Let's go to the makeup and hairstyling category next here. Maestro, number 1 for me, then Poor Things, Oppenheimer in 3rd, Killers of the Flower Moon in 4th, and I'm going Golda in my 5th slot here. Initially, I was going to go with Ferrari as my 5th slot here, but the fact that Golda was on that list, it's Helen Mirren, past winner and stuff, and everything, it sticks out like a sore thumb. So I'm going to pick it as my 5th place pick here. Society of the Snow is also shortlisted here, as is, I'll just name them all, Beau is Afraid, Last Voyage of the Demeter, and Napoleon. We also mentioned Ferrari earlier there. So yeah, realistically, you could name any one of those 5 and you wouldn't be wrong, as they're a possibility. But yeah, I just think like Society of the Snow, for example, that could sneak in as well. So that one, I think we're down to like possibly 7 there that are pretty realistic. In the sound category, I've got Oppenheimer out front, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Ferrari, and The Killer is actually my 5th place pick. I feel like with a Fincher movie out, I think they're going to give it something. Even when you have his less popular films at the time, like Fight Club, for example, that ended up getting an Oscar nomination for, or 2 actually, if I remember right, it was like the sound categories, if I'm not mistaken. Did it get both? I can't even... It did get in, didn't it? I thought I got a nomination here for something, didn't it? Yes, sound editing. Okay, yeah, just the sound editing, I think, was the only thing. Okay, so 1 category, yeah. And remember, at the time, that was kind of a flop for Fincher. And I think in years past, or years since, it's gotten more of a claim there. So I feel like with that, I think it has to get at least one thing. It could sneak into cinematography with the past winner there, Messerschmitt and everything. Otherwise, in this category, Napoleon, Zone of Interest, Barbie, Creator, and Mission Impossible have been shortlisted as well. It's probably the only spot that Poor Things is not on here for. Which, I mean, it's okay. I don't think this one was necessarily a huge spot for Poor Things to get in for. Yeah, let me think here. I mean, unless you're just going with the Barbie sweep, that's one I can see getting in. Possibly Napoleon, being a war film and everything. Zone of Interest less so. I haven't, having not seen that one or anything, I'm not sure why that one would stick out as a sound thing, but I don't know. Maybe once I see it, maybe I'll figure it out. Let's move on to the visual effects category here. I'm going The Creator as my number one pick. Poor Things in second. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in third. Again, don't forget, comic book movies historically have struggled in this category. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse in fourth. And I'm going Godzilla -1 in fifth. I feel like that's going to be a passion vote there. So even though, I know there's a lot of Godzilla fans that have come out of the film and they're like, oh, it's a much more emotional movie than a lot of other past Godzilla films. Not that I would know. I haven't seen like any of them except for the American versions, unfortunately. It just doesn't appeal to me that much. But anyways, Society of the Snow and Napoleon, I think, are the only other two I would like really count on here as possible nominees. Like Mission Impossible, I doubt that one gets in because they've never liked that franchise here at the Oscars. Indiana Jones, okay, it's shortlisted, but I don't see it making it. And Rebel Moon, and I'm not a big proponent of that one getting in. So we're going to end on the shorts categories here. Animated short, Once Upon a Studio is my front runner, being about Disney and everything. Yeah, that just feels like, especially on the 100th anniversary of Disney Studios, that feels like it's going to happen. War is Over is my second place pick. Boom in third. Pete in fourth. And Letter to a Pig in fifth. With this one, I think 95 Senses has some passion votes out there, so that one is not totally out of it. A Kind of Testament I've heard good things about. And anything else? No, I haven't really heard much other buzz on some of the other ones yet. Documentary short. This one I've not really seen a lot of consensus here yet. I've seen a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's going to be Last Song from Kabul." I actually have that one in fifth. Some have said Camp of Courage. I have that one in fourth. And the rest of them are kind of split between these three. The Last Repair Shop, which I just put as a front runner early. ABCs of Book Banning, which maybe sounds a little more important, so that might get the win overall. And then The Barber of Little Rock is my third place pick there. Otherwise, Deciding Vote, I've heard a lot of good things about that one. Let's see here. Bear, I'm not really sure what that one's about, other than probably a bear. It's, at some point a bear is involved, but I've actually heard some people do like that one, though. And then, actually, one of the more interesting titles, just as a title itself, would be Between Earth and Sky. That one kind of sounds interesting, so I don't know. I'll just throw that one out there, maybe. And then in the live-action short category, The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar seems to be the consensus pick so far. The After is in second place. The Shepherd in third. Good Boy in fourth. And Strange Way of Life in fifth. Now, you do have the Anne Frank gift shop. Remember, Holocaust stuff traditionally does extremely well in these shorts categories, particularly documentary short. But I don't know. I'm just, at the moment, I don't have it in. I might wuss out and put it in later, and then it'll miss. But that seems to be a theme through the years. Avocado Pit has definitely gotten some votes here. Red, White, and Blue. Some say, yep, that one's a good one to look for. And Invincible is one I've heard some good things about. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit. I feel like, too. I've been talking a lot here in the last hour, so... We'll go ahead and we'll wrap up here with a couple of reviews here quick. So first, let me just get Maestro out of the way. Maestro is the one I saw. I saw that just actually a day or two after it came out on Netflix. And I saw it early in the day and stuff, but surprisingly for me, I really struggled with this one. I couldn't really get into the movie very well. I think I can name some of the more positives, and get them out of the way quick. The 6-minute conducting scene, Bradley Cooper, getting all into it and perspirating everywhere and doing the full motion, stuff. That, really good scene. Well edited, well put together. That, is a really nice scene. If you see that scene just cut out of context, it would still work and be impressive and everything. Carey Mulligan's pretty good in it. Bradley Cooper does a good job acting in it and everything. Overall, technically it looks good and everything, and the makeup is pretty good in it, really good in some sequences. But I really struggled getting into this one. I felt like right away I was a little distracted by the makeup at first, because there's some close-ups of Cooper at first when he's like one of the oldest spots as Bernstein. It's literally the bookend of the film. It's the very beginning and the very ending. And when it's in close-up, I'm like, oh, that's a young man in old age makeup. It just didn't fully click in for me. I just didn't totally buy it right away. There's one sequence later, like probably the second or third last sequence in the film, where he's, teaching and conducting, helping a younger student with his conducting, and the camera's a little further back, so it's a little more, middle. It's like a mid shot, kind of middle ground shot as far as distance and stuff. And there I bought it. There he looked and acted and felt like an older man there. That I bought. But at the very end and in the very beginning, when he's just playing the piano and we get close-ups of him, I'm like, no, that's Bradley Cooper in old age makeup. It just didn't work for me. And everything there. And yeah, I felt like just overall, the movie really did not feel like it led up to anything. There wasn't, telling this side of Bernstein's story... Bernstein, I think it's pronounced, it's kind of like an Oppenheimer thing. I felt like it didn't, it's not like a Bohemian Rhapsody style biopic where it's like, hey, we're going to show how they made the songs. In this case, it's not about, there's maybe one sequence where we see Leonard at the piano, younger, kind of writing out some, playing out some stuff on the piano. But otherwise, like the stuff I was, kind of looking forward to, like, hey, how did he come up with On the Town or West Side Story, obviously, or some of these other ones. Nope, they just skip right past it. It's like at one point they just go to a point in the film where he's a little older, like middle-aged, like 40s or 50s, something. They're like, hey, when you did West Side Story, I'm like, shit, it wasn't even included. I was like, oh, no. And again, that's fine. It's fine to tell the story you want to tell. It's fine, you don't have to do it, in that particular way. That's not the only way to do a biopic, of course. But if you're not going to do it that way, it still has to work. It still has to keep our interest. It still has to, come in a way where you're like, oh, this is still really exciting. It's still really fun to watch. And it wasn't. There was no narrative propulsion to this. There wasn't any sequence at the end that it felt like we were leading up to anything. It just kind of stuff happens and the movie ends. And it's like, I don't know. I just did not care for that. Just absolutely did not work for me there. So it's a 5 out of 10 for me. I didn't care for it. I wouldn't recommend it. There's good stuff in it. It's just overall, I couldn't really get into it. It was, at 2 hours and 9 minutes, it felt like 240. It just dragged. It just didn't go anywhere. I just can't recommend it. I just did not enjoy it. So a step down, I think, from Star is Born for sure. Then we get to Poor Things. And this is on the polar opposite. This is one of the best, sorry, my hand's up here. This is one of the best films of the year. This is probably a top 3, top 4 for me. And it's I've been telling people it's a weird movie. It's kind of on the level like an A24. I don't know why this hair won't stay down. It's bugging me. But anyways, it's got some A24 style stuff to it and everything. It's feels weird in that way, but my biggest takeaway here though, Emma Stone, man, We Are Not Worthy. She blew me away in this film because looking back at like her Oscar win for La La Land, it's a nice performance and she sang in it, she danced in it. Okay, she wouldn't have gotten my vote that year. She probably would have gotten a nomination if I was just handpicking the Oscars, but who's in and just who gets nominated. She probably would have gotten a nomination for me, but I wouldn't have given her the win. And going back to like I looked at it again through her filmography, I'm like, well, Birdman. Is that her most impressive performance to me? Is Birdman? And I think at the end of the day it was, because like The Favorite, that one has not stuck with me. That's the last Yorgos film, by the way, too. And I'm not overly extensively familiar with his filmography by any means. The Favorite was my kind of introduction to him, and I haven't gone back to watch any of his other films since. But The Favorite was kind of in one ear out the other for me. It's like it was entertaining while I was watching it. But I in the 5 years since it's come out, I have not really remembered much from it, except, oh yeah, Olivia Colman was good in it. Just overall, the ensemble was good. Rachel Weisz was really good in it too. But I even forgot Nicholas Hoult was in it. I just completely forgot about his character and his storyline. I couldn't tell you anything about his storyline right now from the movie. And I know a lot of people said he kind of stole the show. I don't remember anything about what he did. So that's for that. But Poor Things, it's going to be hard to forget Poor Things. Emma Stone just gives a absolutely breathtaking performance here. From the word go, it's an impressive performance. It kind of feels like a thankless role on paper, But I think obviously on set and through the writing process, Tony and Yorgos and Emma all discovered, wait, if we make this character the central character, which she is in the film, because I think in the source material, I think Yorgos has said in some interviews, he's like, nah, the focus was really more on the Doctor and on some of the other characters, and she was just like a kind of a in and out kind of character. When she becomes the focus, oh yeah, this is a role that you can totally go to town on and just really go out there. And Emma is kind of brave in this one. She shows a lot more skin than I was expecting. I feel like when we get to like the second half of the film, it's like every other scene she's exposing something or other, which is really I wasn't really expecting that. I heard that there was some stuff in the movie, but I was like, oh, when we get to like the second half, it's like every other scene as she goes into her prostitution stage in the story and stuff. Yeah, so I mean, I'm not a guy that goes just for the nudity or anything, but it's like, I'm like, okay, well, good for her for being willing to do what she did for the film and tell the story in this way. And it's I think just historically speaking, Oscar-wise, usually that helps you anyways. But anyhow, that aside, though, yeah, it's not just that stuff. It's like just, her physical and emotional transformations through the film as she kind of matures as Bella Baxter is just really, really well handled and really well done. And she is absolutely phenomenal in the film. Absolutely phenomenal. Mark Ruffalo is just, and I've seen a couple other interviews with him talking about the movie and stuff, and he is against hype. He is a huckster character. He's an abominable character, and you kind of can't help but love it the whole time. He's just, if Emma Stone was, any less good than she is in the film, I think you could argue Ruffalo steals every scene from her, but no, he's fantastic in it. Absolutely great. Yeah, he's phenomenal, and he shows some skin too. Good for him. That's true. Yeah, for I think 1 or 2 shots. But anyways, yeah, and then like Willem Dafoe is good in his supporting role. Rami Youssef is good. Yeah, it's a decent little ensemble there too. Yeah, and like the makeup effects and stuff, what they did on Willem Dafoe is pretty jaw dropping stuff. Really good stuff. I don't know if it's going to sneak the win away from like Maestro in that category or anything. Nope, forget about it. I don't think so. Let's see what else. Just the design stuff too, and the production design just eye-poppingly gorgeous as far as how they do all this stuff. The effects, they work for the level they're on. I know it can be, it's not like the $250 million that like a Marvel movie gets, but I think the effects work for the film and stuff. At times they kind of stick out a little bit, and I can see some people critiquing that, but I saw it, but I felt like just because there's so much other weird stuff going on in the film, story-wise and otherwise, it didn't bother me the way it would in, say, like Mission Impossible this year, which the last set piece in that one, it just really got heavy on CGI, and I really got distracted there, for example. But, yeah. Is it the best effects ever? No, I wouldn't say that. But I think it works enough for the film where it's not a detriment. It's not a demerit on the film. Yeah, costume designs too. The costumes are just really eye-popping as well. I just think it's going to win for both of those. Absolutely. Let's see what else. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, just overall, it's a really great... The script too. Tony McNamara's script. Some of the lines of dialogue when they as they show Bella maturing, and at one point she has to confront the Doctor about doing something, and the way she summarizes it, the way she kind of sums up, what this means to her and stuff, just the way it was scripted, the way the dialogue comes across, I thought it was really, really great writing. So, this I might just vote, and end up saying this wins for adapted screenplay, and it very well might. And then it gets interesting. So I'm starting, now that I've seen the film, it's kind of sat with me for a little over a week here. I think there's absolutely a scenario where this movie comes out and wins Best Picture. There's a scenario. There is a scenario, absolutely. So it's one of the quick thing, not quick. One other thing I want to take a little bit of time just to talk about here a little bit. And I'm not going to give away too much, I don't think. I don't think there's any spoiler alerts here, but one thing I want to say, though, about the film's message and its kind of theme, you could argue it's kind of a feminist movie. The way that it approaches Bella and her progression and stuff, I think it's, you could argue that. Barbie, take notes. Yeah, I think, in an era and in a year where we're all talking about how, groundbreaking Barbie is and stuff, it's like, I didn't think it was that groundbreaking. It's still a 7 out of 10 or like an 8 out of 10 for me. It's an entertaining movie, and I had fun with it. And I think, in one perspective, I think you could say, how it comes out about its politics and how it's so open about it is kind of a flip on the traditional narrative of how this stuff usually works. Usually it's a lot more subdued. It's a lot more in the background and stuff. But here it's like they're kind of just coming out and saying what they want to say and showing the two, chauvinist versus feminist sides and stuff and kind of going back and forth. And doing it more openly. So you could argue, give it credit for that, for trying something different in that way, I guess you could argue. With Poor Things, though, it's a lot more subtle, and it's I think, a much stronger presentation of the feminist argument and everything there. Because Bella, when you get into her character a little bit, and once she decides, hey, I'm going to become a prostitute, she kind of explains it. She says, well, we need money, which at that point she does, and it's also going to be a grand adventure. And it's like, boy, that's something that, obviously none of the male characters, except for maybe the Rami Youssef character, none of the other male characters look at that as like, oh, a grand adventure, okay. It kind of makes sense. And it's like, from this, once you've been with her that long and you've seen her progression, you can understand. You don't have to agree with what she's doing and come down on it that way, but you can understand how she got to that point and how, wait a minute, this is kind of an adventure for her. This is, or kind of an experiment, I think she might say too, because she comes from literally a mad doctor, if you will, with the whole Frankenstein aspect of it. So I just thought, just the way the film was handled, the way it was made and written and everything, up to that point, I accepted it. I didn't shy away from it. I didn't say, oh, okay, now we got to put up with 50 minutes of her being a prostitute or anything. No, it wasn't. At the end of it, it was like, okay, it actually made sense in the story, and it actually, I think, was explained well enough by her character, where again, I accepted it, and I didn't take as much out of it, where it might bother some other viewers or anything. And also, you might notice all the male characters in the movie. None of them are really all that great. I mean, the Willem Dafoe character, his character, right from the beginning, it's like, okay, well, some of the stuff he's doing, even if and his excuse is always, it's in the name of science and everything. Some of the stuff he does is still not very nice. I mean, clearly it's not, bringing the dead back from the dead and bringing them back to life. That's disturbing the rest of the dead and everything and all that. So it's like, that's not very nice to begin with and stuff. And even though, yeah, there are moments where he doesn't go in and molest her or anything. He takes on more of a paternal role and everything. And they do talk a little bit about that in the film, which I was a little surprised they went into that. But yeah, it's like, yeah, at the end of the day, he's not like an awful character. He's not like a Mark Ruffalo character, but he's still not, like the best guy ever. And then even the Rami Youssef character, you could argue he's worse than Dafoe. You could argue, even though on the surface he seems like he's a nicer guy, he ends up kind of being something of a love interest to her in the film. But I would say with his character, yes, he's a student. Yes, he's also kind of, quote, doing this experiment in the name of science and helping out with this experiment in the name of science. But at any point in the film, he can go to the cops and say, hey, arrest this guy. Look what he's done to this woman. Look what he's done to her. He doesn't do that. And he could also at any point just walk out and just say, I don't want to do anything with this experiment. Let Bella be herself, or whatever, and just, let it be. And he could just walk out and leave and never come back. But again, that doesn't happen. So you could argue in that way, yes, he is, a worser guy for doing that. Then, of course, then you do have the Ruffalo character who's pretty bad and takes advantage of Bella, literally kidnaps her at one point to do his will and stuff. And just, yeah, he's just not a nice guy at all. And he kind of gets, can't spoil it too much, but he does kind of get the last laugh in one way, in one particular sense of the film. And there is a fourth character who comes in, that is a spoiler when we talk about who he is. But this character ends up being just one of the most despicable, horrible, insultingly bad characters as far as like just method, not as far as like writing or anything, but just as far as like just one of the most diabolical, like mean-spirited characters out there that I can remember in recent history. Like he's just not a guy you want to associate with at all. So it's like the progression, it's you could kind of read into it and see, oh, okay, so what this film is telling you is it's okay for a woman to be herself, all men are trash. I don't know, maybe that's what they were going for. But I feel like if that's the political way you want to view it, you want to read into it, I think Poor Things does a much more subtle job of it, and overall, I think a better job. And again, that's not to take anything away from Barbie and what it did, because I think coming out and being a little more open with it was a little bit, it's not a totally fresh spin on it, because I'm sure there's other films that have done that before. But in this way, I felt like it's an angle that works. Personally, I would just prefer maybe the more subtle stuff, because again, I'm not always someone who digs politics all the time. So, yeah. Okay. I'm going to take a short break. I'll be back here. We'll talk about some updates on SAG Award nomination predictions. We'll have live reactions the morning of that show. And we will have, not live reactions, but we'll have a recap of the Golden Globes after they are handed out on Sunday night. So before that, I'll give you some updated... I'll just go ahead. It's late enough in the week here. I'm probably not going to get another shot at who wins, so I'll give just winning predictions. Just one shot. This is who I think is going to win predictions. We'll just do that. I was contemplating doing another one, but I'd have to come back and shoot it like tomorrow, which would literally be like pointless because I get like 12 hours in between. Or maybe a full 24 to think about it, and then that's it. So, yeah, we will do that here after a few minutes. So I'll upload this one first, and we'll be back.